The maternity ward smelled of antiseptic and quiet hope, a place where whispers mattered and footsteps softened on instinct. The young woman lay pale against white sheets, her body exhausted from hours of labor, her newborn sleeping beside her in a transparent crib. What should have been a moment of fragile joy was instead heavy with tension, thick as fog. At the foot of the bed stood her mother-in-law, arms crossed tightly, lips pressed into a thin line that spoke of judgment long held back and now finally unleashed. She did not lower her voice. She did not care who heard. She spoke with the certainty of someone who believed the world had always bent to her will. She said the baby was a mistake, that her son had been trapped, that this hospital room was not a place for celebrations but consequences. Nurses paused at the doorway, unsure whether to intervene. The young mother stared at the ceiling, blinking back tears, too tired to fight, too shocked to respond. Each word landed like a slap, sharp and humiliating. The mother-in-law demanded she leave. Not tomorrow. Not after recovery. Now. She said there was no place for her in the family home, no welcome waiting, no future worth pretending. She gestured toward the door as if it were a train platform and sneered that the girl was rushing to the wrong station in life, chasing a destination that would never be hers. The cruelty felt rehearsed, as if she had waited months to finally say it all out loud. The room fell silent when the door opened again. Footsteps entered, calm and deliberate. A man in a dark coat stepped inside, followed by a hospital administrator and a nurse. He did not raise his voice. He did not rush. He simply looked at the scene in front of him, taking in the posture of the older woman, the tears on the younger one's cheeks, the sleeping child unaware of the storm around her. When he spoke, it was with quiet authority, the kind that does not need to announce itself. He introduced himself as the hospital's legal liaison, called in after a complaint was filed. A complaint, it turned out, that detailed harassment of a patient during recovery, emotional abuse witnessed by staff, and a direct attempt to force a vulnerable mother out of medical care. The mother-in-law's confident expression faltered. She laughed once, nervously, as if this were all a misunderstanding. It wasn't. The administrator explained hospital policy, patient rights, and the consequences of violating them. The word, removal, hung in the air like a verdict. Then the man turned to the young mother and addressed her directly. He told her she was safe. He told her she had every right to be there, to recover, to bond with her child without fear. He asked if she wished the visitor to leave. For the first time since the confrontation began, the young woman felt something steady beneath her ribs. She nodded. The answer was small but firm. Security arrived quietly. The mother-in-law opened her mouth to protest, but no sound came out. The sharp certainty that had fueled her tirade drained away, replaced by disbelief. She looked around as if expecting someone to defend her, to agree that she was right. No one did. She was escorted out past the same nurses she had ignored moments earlier, her heels clicking faster than before, dignity unraveling with every step. When the door closed, the room felt lighter. The young mother exhaled, a long breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. A nurse adjusted the blanket around her shoulders. Someone congratulated her softly. The unexpected guest had not raised a hand or shouted a word, yet the power shift was absolute. Silence, this time, was a gift. Elsewhere, under the glare of studio lights and the rhythm of canned laughter, another confrontation was reaching its breaking point. Reba McEntire sat on a couch across from a smiling host, the set cheerful, the band ready to play the next cue. The conversation had started light, nostalgic even, but slowly twisted into something uncomfortable. A joke landed wrong. A comment brushed too close to something personal, dismissive of years of work, sacrifice, and identity. Reba's smile tightened, then faded. She tried to redirect, to keep it professional. The host laughed it off, pushed further, framing the moment as harmless fun. But there is a line, and when it's crossed, you feel it in your chest before your mind catches up. Reba's eyes hardened, not with anger alone, but with resolve. She reminded him, calmly at first, that respect was not optional, that her story was not a punchline. The audience sensed the shift. Laughter thinned. Cameras lingered. The host attempted to recover with another joke, another shrug. That was when Reba stood up. No dramatic gesture, no shouting match. Just a chair pushed back, a microphone unclipped, and a simple statement that she was done. She had walked away from plenty of stages in her life, and she knew when it was time. Gasps rippled through the studio. The band faltered. The host called after her, half laughing, half panicked, trying to frame it as playful. It wasn't. Reba didn't turn around. She walked straight past the cameras, heels steady, back straight, reclaiming control in the most unmistakable way possible. The show cut to commercial moments later, the cheerful facade cracked. By the next morning, clips spread online. Comment sections filled with arguments, praise, disbelief. Some called it overreaction. Others called it long overdue. What most agreed on was that the moment felt real in a way television rarely allows. A boundary had been drawn, not with noise, but with action. In the maternity ward, the young mother cradled her baby as sunlight crept through the window. She replayed the events again and again, still stunned by how quickly cruelty had turned into protection. She thought about the words thrown at her, about the wrong station she had been accused of chasing. Looking down at her child, she knew exactly where she was meant to be. Two very different rooms, two very different women, yet the same truth echoed through both moments. Power does not always shout. Sometimes it stands up and leaves. Sometimes it opens a door and calmly asks who has the right to stay. And sometimes, the most unexpected guest is dignity itself, arriving just in time to leave someone speechless. The argument began before the baby's first cry had fully faded from memory. In the maternity ward, where joy and fear often share the same narrow hallway, the young mother lay exhausted, her body aching, her mind still drifting in and out of shock. The child beside her breathed softly, unaware of the tension building like a storm cloud at the foot of the bed. Standing there, rigid and impatient, was the mother-in-law, a woman who believed that authority followed her wherever she went, even into rooms meant for healing. She spoke sharply, her words cutting through the fragile calm. She said this birth had complicated everything, that plans had been ruined, reputations damaged, futures derailed. She spoke as if the young woman were not a patient but an inconvenience, an error that needed correcting. Nurses exchanged glances, sensing danger not to the body, but to the spirit. The new mother felt small, pinned beneath accusations she had no strength left to answer. The older woman gestured toward the door again and again, insisting that the hospital stay was unnecessary, indulgent, a waste. She mocked the idea of support, sneering that life did not stop just because a baby had arrived. With a bitter smile, she said the young woman was chasing a dream that would never take her anywhere useful, that she was running to the wrong station and would soon find herself alone on an empty platform. Tears slid silently into the pillow. The baby stirred. The room seemed to shrink under the weight of unspoken cruelty. Then, without drama, the door opened. A man entered with measured steps, carrying himself with the quiet confidence of someone used to difficult conversations. Behind him followed a senior nurse and a hospital administrator. The shift in energy was immediate, like a window cracked open in a suffocating space. The mother-in-law turned, ready to defend herself, but paused when she realized this was not a casual interruption. The man listened first. He didn't interrupt. He observed. He noted the tension, the distress, the imbalance of power. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm but unyielding. He explained that hospitals are not battlegrounds for family dominance, that patients recovering from childbirth are legally protected, and that emotional abuse is taken as seriously as physical interference. Each sentence landed with precision. The mother-in-law scoffed, trying to laugh it off, but the sound rang hollow. She insisted she was family, that she had rights. The administrator corrected her gently but firmly. Family status did not override patient consent. The young mother was asked a simple question: did she want this visitor to remain? The answer came quietly, but it carried weight. No. Security arrived without spectacle. The mother-in-law's face drained of color as realization set in. The confidence that had fueled her harshness evaporated, replaced by stunned silence. She opened her mouth to argue again, but nothing came out. Words, once so abundant, had abandoned her. She was escorted out past the nurse's station, past rooms filled with new beginnings she would not be part of today. After the door closed, the young mother felt something unfamiliar but welcome settle over her. Relief. Safety. Validation. A nurse squeezed her hand and adjusted the baby's blanket. For the first time since labor began, she allowed herself to rest, knowing she had not been wrong to stay, to heal, to exist. Across the city, under hot studio lights, another woman faced a different kind of pressure. Reba McEntire sat comfortably on a late-night show set, smiling for the audience, trading stories with a host known for humor that danced close to the edge. At first, it felt harmless. Then a question lingered too long. A joke reduced decades of work to a stereotype. Laughter rippled, but Reba's eyes changed. She answered with grace, redirecting the conversation, offering humor of her own. But the host pressed again, leaning into the moment, mistaking politeness for permission. The comment that followed was sharper, dismissive in a way that suggested familiarity where none existed. Reba shifted in her seat. The audience sensed it. Something was off. She responded clearly, setting a boundary with words first. Respect mattered. Experience mattered. Identity mattered. The host smiled, trying to smooth it over, framing it as teasing, as nothing serious. But there are moments when explanation becomes exhaustion, and tolerance becomes surrender. Reba had spent a lifetime choosing her battles. She knew this one. She stood. The movement alone changed everything. Applause faltered. The band hesitated. She removed her microphone, thanked the audience politely, and said she was finished. No raised voice. No insult. Just certainty. She walked off the set, heels echoing against the polished floor, leaving behind a host frozen between disbelief and damage control. The cameras cut away quickly, but it was too late. The moment had already escaped into the world. Clips spread within hours, dissected frame by frame. Some viewers criticized her, saying she should have laughed it off. Many more applauded her for doing what so few do in public spaces, leaving when respect disappears. In the maternity ward, morning light spilled across white walls as the young mother fed her baby, watching tiny fingers curl and uncurl. She thought about how close she had come to believing the accusations thrown at her, how easily exhaustion could have turned into surrender. She thought about the man who walked in unexpectedly and changed the story simply by acknowledging her rights. On television screens everywhere, Reba's walk-off replayed again and again, a reminder that dignity does not require permission. Both women, in entirely different worlds, had faced attempts to diminish them. Both had been told, in one way or another, that they did not belong where they were. And both moments ended the same way. Someone stood firm. Someone intervened. Someone chose to leave rather than be erased. Sometimes the most powerful response is not a fight, but a refusal. Not silence born of fear, but silence imposed by consequence. In hospital rooms and television studios alike, the message echoed clearly: you are not rushing to the wrong station when you protect your worth. You are finally arriving where you should have been all along.